Is that you, Imani? Oh, there
That's
you
me.
go. Okay, great. Wonderful. All right. So while we wait, it's 11:01. What do you think are some good reasons to list during the holidays? Oh, by the way, let me go back. How was your Thanksgiving? How rude of me. Hello.
Sorry, I had to run upstairs to print because for some reason the printer downstairs wasn't working for me.
Yes, and we're recording. Iyana, Iyana, yeah. Hey, Iyana and
Hi.
Jim.
Hello.
Hello. How was your Thanksgiving?
That's pretty good, I guess. Had
Good.
the in-laws over, so as good as could be expected.
Okay, great. So you stayed here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. And Iyana, how was yours?
It was good. We didn't do anything special.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. So I'm gonna ask you guys. I don't care what you look like. I don't care if your hair is in rollers, Jim, or Iyana. If you have a mohawk, I want to see your beautiful face.
Yeah, my hair's in rollers.
And Iyana, I want to see your mohawk.
Oh, I'm getting my hair done right now, so I'm not going to put the camera on.
Okay, that's fair. All right, as long as you participate at a very high level. So I'm going to honor your time because you are on time and I love to stay on time. So we're going to talk today about why somebody should sell their home during the holidays because I'm sure you're going to get some objections around that because I always have and I've been in the business for a very long time. So at the end of this discussion, because it's going to be a discussion, you'll have a couple of good reasons, just to have a conversation at cocktail parties or whatever, why somebody should list during the holidays. And my goal is that you'll have two or three of them just at the tip of your tongue. So you can just have like a casual conversation. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Okay, great. And Zoe Fleischer is coming on. Hey, Zoe. So, all right. So,
Morning.
Zoe, good morning. I would love to see your face, even if you are wearing a mohawk. I don't care what your hair looks like.
I'm taking care of that.
Okay.
I have some issues with my camera.
Oh, okay. All right. Then that's it. It's all
Just
right.
give me a couple of moments.
Okay. No problem. So, guys, if I was
Julianne looks different.
yes, she does, didn't she? She got some chocolate. Woo. And long hair, long black hair.
I know.
Imani,
I
our
was talking about
moderator's
the glasses,
assistant.
but
Yeah, she kept the glasses. So, quick question, guys. So, if I was a seller and I really truly want to sell my house, and my only objection was, I'm not sure if I should sell it during Christmas because for whatever reason, what would be, first of all, how would you approach that?
I have no idea. That's why I'm tuning into this class.
Okay.
Because I can understand not wanting to sell it during the holidays. Wait till after the first of the year. So I'm
Okay.
kind of curious what the reasoning would be.
All right. So Jim, if that was you and this was me, I would say, so okay, Jim, so I'm curious, what's your reason? Right?
What's the reason for not wanting to wait, not wanting to do it in January or in December?
Yeah.
Um, Christmas, so much going on, family in town. I'm going to be out of town some.
Okay.
I mean, there's tons of objections that I could easily throw in.
All right, good. And so we'll handle each of those one by one. Right? Because right now that to me is not an objection. That to me is give me a reason why. right? So they're asking for you, they have a problem, right? And remember, when they have a problem, it's our job to be what?
Solve it.
That's right. We are problem solvers, okay? We give people options, right? All right, so hey, Liz. Oh, there's a pro, so let's ask her. Hi, Liz.
Hey,
So,
sorry for lateness.
how are you?
I'm good. Sorry, I'm late.
Yeah, good.
How's
So
everyone?
we're just talking about, what would be an objection that a seller would probably have about listing during the holidays?
Okay.
What would you say
Oh.
to a seller who says, I don't want to list during the holidays?
There's so many serious buyers out, and there are people relocating, and there are still lots of buyers with nowhere to go that couldn't find anything in the fall. That's what I would say.
See, you see how easy that rolled off her lips? And that is the truth, right? Because typically there are several of us agents in the office who, for some reason, December is the best month for closings, or if not the best, it's one of the best. And it's every December, it's the same thing. So I want to give you guys maybe 10 or 11 good reasons that you can have a conversation around. So the first one is, like she said, people who look for homes during the holidays, do you think they're serious or not?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, they're more serious buyers, right? And so because that's number one, they're very serious if they're out there looking right now. Like that was me last year. Because we actually closed what, Amani, December 10th? Something like that. And I was very serious because I wanted to be in the house by Christmas and New Year's. So if you're out there as a buyer now, you're really serious. The second reason to list your home right now, Jim, is if you're a buyer and you're serious, guess what? We have fewer homes to choose from. The buyers have fewer homes to choose from because sellers are saying the same thing you just said to me. So don't you think that because there are fewer homes to choose from, that you stand a chance of getting more money for your house now than in the spring?
Definitely, but like this is the 30th of November. Like, what would be, realistic chances of putting a house on the market and having it closed by the first of the year? I feel like the mortgage companies are, running against a 23rd hour every time right now. So I just don't feel like you could get in and out in 3 weeks. Seems kind of
that's
extreme.
of course, and that's just us talking, right? So there
Yeah.
is a legitimate concern. And yet there are mortgage companies who still year after year after year close around this time and can still close in 20 days.
I hear that, but
Mhm.
it just seems like you're, really, really, rushing every single detail to get it in 20 days. We did ours in a month and we didn't have the paperwork to the lawyer's office until the morning of closing.
And it depends on who you work with.
You
Yeah.
could get cash. You could get a cash deal.
Exactly.
Well, that's true.
Right.
That can be done quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. You're cutting out a lot of the middle work there. Absolutely.
Right.
But
Exactly.
who in their right mind would pay all cash right now? That's kind of silly in itself.
I've got one.
Thank you. Yeah.
But they're
And
lower
so,
price.
here's the thing. Here's the thing. And I know we're just talking.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
I'd never say that to a customer.
It's our job to lay out all of our options for our clients. Because and Liz, what's your cash price on that sale?
It's 230. It's a townhome. It's or a condo, and it's 230.
Yeah. And I will tell you that several times this year, one in particular that my buyer really truly wanted that house, and we went above list price, and somebody came right in with his $450,000 cash and bought that house. So
Word.
there are
Who is this
people,
guy?
there are lots of buyers with a lot of cash who has to invest it somewhere. So
Well, I've
that
got
is,
one now looking for a very similar property to what Liz is talking about. I mean, cash, potential cash buyer, but I've talked to her and, we're probably going to finance about 50% of it just because why not use somebody else's money? You can put that extra $100,000 and let's look at a second investment property.
mhm,
We're just having trouble finding something with no rental restrictions, where the HOAs just aren't complete, over the top psychos.
yeah.
So, just looking, I was just kind of curious why somebody would put 100% of their, all their money unless, I mean, if you got $10 million in the bank, what's it matter? A couple 100,000, but most people don't have $10 million in the bank. And, if you're spending $200,000 or $300,000 in a house, that's probably, putting a dent in your, in your bank account. So
Yeah, I mean, it's perspective.
that's a different discussion, different day. Sorry, got off
Right.
topic.
No, that's fine. We're having a discussion. All right, so here's the thing. Do we have a lot of houses right now, or do we have a short supply?
Very short.
Okay, all right, so here's one, right? Since the supply of listings will dramatically increase in January, there will be less demand for your particular house. So less demands mean less money. We've had a 2 month supply of listings for I don't know how many months this year. So this is a great time to put your house on the market. We just did what? One last week, Liz, and it went in 4 days above asking price. And we are going to close the 19th or the 20th or something really quickly. Right, so there are serious buyers looking, and because of lack of inventory, it's strictly a seller's market up to a certain point, maybe up to $1 million.
Yeah.
Right. All right. And guess what? Here's another one. Houses show much better during the holidays. Doesn't matter what holiday it is, because there are people who decorate for Halloween, Easter, whatever. Right. So right now, right about this time of the year, the houses are showing much better. You, Mr. Seller, you don't need a stager. You are the stager.
So you would recommend putting up, Christmas decorations? I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to believe somebody would be offended by Christmas decorations, but I mean, I can't see through other people's perspective. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm asking the question honestly because I don't know.
Yeah, and if the seller wants to put up their Christmas decorations and enjoy it for 25 days or whatever, I'm like, go ahead. Most people have it up anyway, right before Thanksgiving this year. So what are you going to do? Have them take it down? No, I'm going to say keep your decorations up. People enjoy that kind of stuff. And I guarantee if it's the right house, that is not going to be a deal breaker. What do you guys think? Yeah.
I think that I agree with you. I think the same thing, but I'm new.
Yeah.
I don't want to assume that I know something that I really don't.
So you let the buyer decide. If the seller has the decorations up, they stay up.
If it's, like 200 figurines on a bookshelf, and if it's really cluttery and insane, then I would
Yeah.
ask to scale back. But I think that it looks warm and inviting, and
Yeah.
people would like that. But it's all relative, like anything. And I've seen both.
Right,
If-
exactly.
Yeah, if you got 1,100 square foot house and you've got 3 Christmas trees in it, you may not be walking room, and I've seen those
Yeah.
houses.
Yeah. So it is up to us, Jim, to you see how gently Liz did that, to advise, because they're paying us to give advice. So you advise, hey, you know what? I can't really, I'm looking at your house through the eyes of a buyer, and I can't really see the eating kitchen because of the Christmas tree and the Santa whatever and the mailbox and everything else. So what would we take out so we can see the space?
So
And
yes
give
to
them
the
a choice.
decorations as long as they're not invasive.
Yeah,
that-
because you still want to show off that property. And if you have too much, then people are gonna go, oh my God, it's too small, right?
Yeah.
You know how buyers are. They like space and they like seeing themselves in that space. Right?
Yep.
All right, so what else? So last year, this was me looking for a house. So this next one I can relate to, even though I'm a realtor and I'm supposed to know better. Buyers are really more emotional around this time of the year. So they're likely to pay your price. So that's another good reason to list your home during the holidays.
The husband may agree to more just because it's what the wife wants, and hey, Christmas is coming up.
Yeah.
You know,
And you want to
yeah.
be settled in before Christmas. So let's go on the contract quickly already so I can have this moving van and closing and get my decorations up. All right. Okay. And then here's something else that you just brought up about why people want to put all this money into a house, this cash. Some buyers have to buy for tax purposes. They just have to.
I was about to ask that question. If there's a
Yeah,
tax
they just
benefit
have to.
buying versus buying or selling to do it before the end of the year.
Yes, yeah. So there's that reason they don't really care if it's going to be an investment property. Of course, they want a cash flow or whatever, but they have to close on something and they will for tax purposes. Okay. And then because this is Atlanta, here's another great reason. This is a transient city. And even though we're still in a year of COVID-19 and people working more from home, employees really start their new employees in January typically. So employees who are looking right now have to find a home so they can get these kids adjusted to virtual schooling in a new city or do a hybrid before the end of the year. So they've got several weeks to come down to Atlanta, take a look at a couple of properties, find that property that they love and close and get the kids settled before January 1st. Good? All right. And I was going to say something else about that. What was I going to say? Oh, and let's talk about COVID-19 and what working from home virtually has done for some people. They've realized that they hate being at home because the house is too small, or everybody's at house, or even if they don't hate the house, everybody has to have an office space now. The kids have a space where they need to work. The husband has to have a space. The wife might have to have a space. And so they need more of a house. And so we're seeing that a lot where we're doing moves just down the road in the same school district because it needs to be a bigger house. Or we're seeing people move from Covington to Cobb, or we're seeing people move from downtown Atlanta from their little apartment into a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home because staying in the house made them realize I have outgrown the space. So that's reason number, I don't know what that is, but because of COVID-19, we have that little blessing that people have to move because of space issues, quite frankly. And because people are now looking for a house with an office.
Or a
Yeah,
pool.
it seems like people are going away.
Say that again, Liz.
I said, or a pool. I've
Yeah.
heard of a lot of people saying, oh, now I really want a pool. I would never have wanted one before, but now I do. And they're looking ahead to
Yeah.
spring and summer and realizing I don't want to go to my neighborhood pool, or I don't have a place to go. And they're hard to find, but they're becoming, I'm hearing that more too.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought about that angle. That's actually a very good point. I mean, the one thing that I've seen just, and not necessarily personally, but across message boards everywhere, is
Mhm.
people are kind of going away from open floor plans. They're looking for more chopped up houses because you got more rooms, which create individual spaces.
Huh.
So that's kind of, bringing the older houses back into the forefront instead of the brand new ones.
Yeah.
Kind of
Well,
makes it interesting.
no, that's definitely a conversation with somebody who has a traditional home. Who says, well, don't you think I should wait till next year and then just open up take down a wall? That's a great conversation to have, Jim. And thanks for sharing that one with us. I wasn't aware of that one.
Well,
What
people
else?
watching too much HGTV right now.
Yeah.
I can take down this wall for 10 grand and sell it for $30,000 more. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
let's not.
HGTV here. What else are you guys hearing out there that you want to share with us? Unmute yourself.
I'm hearing, hey y'all, I'm
Yeah.
hearing some uncertainty about what the market's going to do. So they're hesitant to sell. And
Mhm,
at the same time, they know the value of their homes have gone up, but
mhm.
at the same time, the purchase price of the home they'll be buying has also gone up. So they're kind of in limbo, not knowing what's going to happen, in a few months.
Right. And we've always had that, regardless of COVID-19 or not. But so here's a conversation to have with the seller. So, Mr. Seller, you do have an opportunity right now to sell at a much higher price and to perhaps rent a property for 6 months, right? So in the spring, you'll be a non-contingent buyer, right? And there are going to be much more homes on the market, we think, in the spring. So you can buy in the spring and not buy now. Sell
That's a
high,
very good
and
angle.
then you get a chance to pick from a lot more houses in the spring. Okay.
Either way, you're creating, it's a buyer's and a seller's market because of the interest rates.
Yeah.
The interest rates are that's the key to everything. So you can sell your house up here and then you buy up here, but the rates you actually pay less. I'd pay probably $50,000 less for my house if I made every payment on time versus me buying it last year.
Mhm.
I'll pay $500,000 for it the way it's financed now, but it'd be about 450, 455 if I'd have waited and bought it now.
Yeah.
Even though I pay more money for it. It's really crazy.
Yeah. All right. So thank you for sharing that, Janice. So what else do we know about what's going on right now? That's typical, Janice. That really doesn't have much to do with COVID-19. We hear that whenever there's a shortage in the market. And we've been in a buyer's market for a long time. A seller's market for a long time.
I have
Yeah.
a question about tax benefits. If a person decides to sell in the end of the year, can he or she get a tax benefit due to this?
And that, my darling, is a question for their CPA.
Okay. I'll talk to my CPA.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a very loaded question. Depending on, there's no one right answer for that. I don't think.
Exactly. And of course, we are realtors. And so we stick to our expertise, and it says right there in the contract. Yeah. Okay. And
If you
that's
ask this
very much
question,
that question.
what is the best way to answer them? Just talk to your CPA like this?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I am not going to muddy the waters with stuff that I'm not 100% sure of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing I learned last year? It's not really for our sellers. It's something I didn't think about, but I had a listing and buyers that pushed, gave kind of a reason to push closing from what could have been mid-December to the beginning of the following year. And they had a great reason that seemed valid. My sellers weren't super psyched. They wanted to close in December, but they agreed. And then I realized at closing that the reason they pushed to January was because they were senior exempt, that is senior tax exemption on the home. So the agent was smart enough to get them to push it, so they got that benefit all year. So they closed in January and got the exemption for the whole next year. So for buyers, if you have anyone in that situation and you can push to January in that situation, it's good. But does that make sense? Versus just getting it for a couple of weeks. It's not usually that huge of a difference, but I thought that was kind of, I hadn't realized that that's why they were postponing the closing, because they didn't say that. So.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have buyers that are looking at a property with a senior exemption and you have that, it's close to the end of the year. If
Mhm.
everyone can push it, it would be good for the buyers. So.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. So thank you for sharing that. All right. So what else do we know about buying right now? So that was, you guys should have at least, what is that? 8 good reasons, right? So let's throw one in. So, okay, Jim, you talked when we were role playing a little bit before everybody else came on, you're talking about, well, I'm going to have people over and I'm going to be out of town. It's perfect, right? Because you have the option of controlling the showings, right? You can do appointment onlys, you can do showings between this hour to that hour, and then when you're out of town and the house is not vacant, but it's available, you can show the entire time you're out of town and even go under contract before you come back to town. Does that make sense to you?
I go into it with the whole intention of we're going to have this thing under contract in a week. So I mean, if you go into it with that objective, then you're going to be moving your stuff out of the house for all throughout December. That like me, the way I'm looking at it, that would be a negative for me as a seller. Like, hey, if I sell this thing quick and it's not being listed all through December, which is the goal, then I'm going to have moving trucks. I'm going to have all this other stuff going on, and I don't want to deal with that. Let's wait till the first of the year.
And you got options on that, right, Jim? You can control the closing date. You could go ahead and close now and take your equity and rent back, right? So you do know you have all those options.
I mean, most of the time.
Which is what you would say to a buyer. Here's the thing, like I said before, we are problem solvers. We give them options. So if a seller is saying, yeah, I want to sell, and all of the things you just said, lay out the options. And there are 3 or 4 different options where we have closed and rented back, right? We have pushed closing out. We have gone on the contract and pushed closing out. Any of those things you can do. The idea is to close now in a healthy seller's market and take that equity out.
You wouldn't be afraid of pushing a little too hard and them just saying, nah, I'll just wait. I'll go with somebody else.
What do you mean?
Like if you push too hard, then I feel like you push some people away. All right, we need to do this now. Let's go ahead and get this going. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's do it now. Well, I'd rather just wait. I'll call you next month.
Well, I'm assuming that we are on the contract from the earlier conversation we have, that we are on the market, right? And then we're getting a contract and we're looking at the terms. But no, you're right. If I have a seller who really does not want to list, then I represent the seller. It's my job to make them happy. Yeah.
I guess that was my question. I mean, do you really try to push that hard if somebody's deciding whether to put it or whether to put it on the market now or to wait till January? Because if they've got multiple reasons why they want to wait till January, then let's wait a month and let's do it, by your terms. I would think. I mean, if it's one objection, I mean, most any of us can overcome one objection.
Yeah, because I was going to say, sometimes they're asking us for a reason to put it on the market now. And it's our job to help them make sense of it.
Of course, pros and cons.
There are people who have to sell now for one reason or the other. And waiting does not benefit them financially. And so when they call me to have that conversation, we'll explore everything.
Okay.
And then you do what's best for your seller.
I've got one that I'm talking to now, and that's kind of, I was talking to her about, trying to figure out a way to help her sell her house before I even got a real estate license.
Mhm.
So now she's making the final provisions. She's got her heating and air upgraded. She's I got somebody out this week redoing the floor, and the floor was the final piece. And then she's gonna put her house on the market. She's already had 2 yard sales, kind of decluttering stuff. So and she was asking about timing, what would make the most sense. And she wasn't crazy about doing it until after the first of the year. So like I said, I'm trying to figure out whether I need to kind of, give her a little push in the right direction, or just, I've been waiting for 6 months on her, essentially. So what's another month?
Well, just go back to what's her motivation and how badly she has to sell. Just
She,
like
she,
just like you do any other client, okay?
she doesn't have to sell. That's the thing, is now she's kind of, well, I don't know if it's the right thing to do to sell. I may not have a job in 2 years with the way this is going. And so I'm, like I said, trying not to push her in the wrong direction, certainly not trying to give her any bad advice.
Get to
But
the motivation. Get to the motivation why you're having the conversation.
she works in East Cobb and lives in Ackworth. So,
Okay.
it's trying to get a little closer to work. She's in the medical field. So, she took a job in East Cobb and likes it there, but she's kind of worried that she moves to East Cobb and then, gets transferred to a different place, and then she's back at square one. So I don't know. Like I said, different story, different day, but just like that's specific to my needs, I guess. I don't want to push her too hard and say, all right, well, let's hurry up and get this thing on the market when it's not a huge advantage for her. Doesn't matter to me. I get, if I get a paycheck in 3 months versus 2 months, I'm not worried about me. I'm more worried about her if there's a huge advantage for her to get it on the market now, which there is, but I don't think it's huge versus, December versus January. Does that make sense? Or am I thinking about that wrong?
So here's my 2 cents. I think you should talk to the seller and get to her real motivation, because sometimes they don't always tell us the real reason. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right, cool. All righty. Thank you for that. All right. I think we've talked through most of them, and always just keep this in your pocket, right? That you can sell now and delay the closing, right? Which means you go on the contract and push the closing out to whenever, or you can sell now and close and stay in the property. So I'm going to ask everybody to unmute and just chime in and tell me what you heard and how would you use this in a conversation.
I'll chime in.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Janice.
I heard that it's important to make them realize that they have several options, not just sell now, buy now.
Right.
There are many other options, especially in this market when there's hesitation.
Yes. Okay. What else? What did you hear, Ayana?
About sorry, about the demand differences in the spring, because there'll be more houses versus right now when there's low inventory. So that'll be a good incentive for them.
Yeah. And the thing about that I like, because I've got a couple of sellers who've done it this year. I've got one who's doing it right now, is that he's selling his house. He's already in a rental and he's taking his equity. So he's in a rental for a year and he'll figure it out next year, is what he told me. I just want to get the equity out because I don't know what's going to happen next year. Because let's remember one thing. We are in the 11th year of a 5-year run. What do I mean by that?
Means a bubble can pop at any time.
What else? When I said the 11th year of a 5-year, typically a 5-year run.
So
This
cy-
is Regina. Are you talking about the normal cycle of shift seller, shift buyer? Maybe?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. And Liz, you were gonna say?
That's what I was going to say. It's the cycle, the typical cycle of seller to buyer market and back is usually has been 5, but it's been much longer. So
It's right now it's 11. It's 11 great years for sellers. And has anybody been through a buyer's market? You haven't, Liz. I thought you might have been. Regina, you were here when I came. So have you been
Yes.
to buyer's market?
Yes.
Not pretty, is it?
It's not as much fun as having a listing
No.
because not only that, buyers require a lot more time and legwork and car work, and there's so much more that they want to see.
Yeah.
And you've really got to narrow down what they're looking for. You're going to show them 50 houses.
Yeah, and she's not exaggerating either, right? Because buyers, they get nervous. They're like, what if this is the right one? What if we have we seen everything? Go on the contract. Let's break the contract because of due diligence, because something else just popped up yesterday. We want to go see it. We think it's the one. And so you guys know what's considered an even market, yeah?
Yeah, 6 months supply.
6 months supply, right? And a buyer's
Yeah.
market is, we've had markets where we've got 12-month supply. That's a lot of inventory for a buyer to choose from. So
Drives prices down for sure.
yeah, I've got sellers who called me just saying, hey, based on the CMAs that we send them or the videos that we've sent them over the months, it's like, you know what? I was thinking about retiring 2 years and then I would move. Why don't I move now and take my equity now? So how are you guys getting information out to your sellers or your not only sellers, but people who you're friends with who have equity in a property? How are you touching them every month?
I'm sending out, the monthly stats report. But I plan to do something more pointed. I'm not sure we'll talk about that today. But I need to, I think that I need to be more specific now.
Yeah.
Because there's specific needs and there's refinancing opportunities, and that's a conversation everyone can have still with interest rates low. So I'm ready to do something on top of just sending stats to everyone.
Okay. All right. Because the stats, are you doing the stats for a specific neighborhood or are you just sending the stats?
I'm just sending a snapshot from our monthly report for it's. Sometimes I'll do East Cobb people and do something specific to them, and then, but it's pretty broad. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And we'll talk about that because I found that people they're loosely interested in their school district. They're very interested in what's going on in their neighborhood. And so do you guys know all the tools that we have that could narrow that down for your clients that you could send out every month?
No.
Who's using videos in command?
I just started doing the neighborhood video that you guys send out. They're very cute. They're
Yeah.
good.
And they're very specific to that neighborhood. So these are some of the ways that you can, I would say, lessen the load for yourself, where sellers are actually calling you. instead of you having to go through having a long drawn out conversation on why to sell now. Because even though we just covered, I think that was 11 or 12 reasons to list during the holidays, it's still selling at some point, right? And you're still going to need to have a reason why somebody should sell at some point. And one of the biggest reasons to sell right now is, of course, taking the equity out. So the more you can be in touch with the sellers that you know, the better it's going to be. And be more specific about what you're sending them that relates to their property. Does that make sense? Okay.
Quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're going to send an email with all that information, so for instance, if I have a potential buyer that wants to sell their home in Smyrna, they've seen the equity or the, you know, the list price go through the roof. But they're hesitant because again, they want to get a good deal basically in the next 6 months. So like you were saying, these you could go ahead and sell now. These are your options. And then also send them a market update of what's going on in Smyrna at the same time. Is that too much info in one email? I mean, how many times, how many attempts should you take to cover all of that? It's a lot of information. It's really good information, but yeah, you don't want to overwhelm them.
So are they buying and selling in Smyrna?
So they would be selling in Smyrna and looking to buy in East Cobb. So basically, the family's growing. They want to move to the different school district.
Okay. All right. So one of the things I would do, of course, I would give them the pricing in Smyrna. I would also hook them up with a really great loan officer who could show them what the monthly would look like in East Cobb. Because even though they might be buying at a higher price in East Cobb, their monthly payments would be less because of the interest rates. And then it would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. So what else have you heard on the list of 11 reasons, or 12, I think it was, to list in during the holidays? If somebody really wants to, but it's pushing back a little bit because they don't know how to manage the process, right? So here's the thing. They're not sure how to manage the process. What would you say?
Let me help you.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. And then what?
Set up an appointment to say, I can go through the process with you and we can discuss it. And then a meeting would be necessary.
Well, beyond that, Liz. So you're at the appointment and I really do want to sell, but I'm kind of waffling because I'm not sure of what it's going to look like during the holidays, right? Because people coming in and out of my house during the holidays. I'm trying to bake cookies, my family's here. How would you help them manage that process? What are you saying to move them forward to what they want, not what you want?
Well, then like we talked about the options that they have for showing times and controlling the showing times and controlling the environment of their house while they're having it on the market. You can give them specific examples of how people have controlled that, and that would be one way.
Okay.
But like you said, listen to what their true fears are and what their true objections are to know what's the most important and the biggest obstacle to them and how to solve it.
Right. Yeah. Basically, it's not as hard as we go in sometimes and make it really hard because we go with our own preconceived ideas of what they want instead of listening with an open ear and heart and getting them to wherever they need to be. Okay. So I hope this has helped in just having general conversations, like really easy conversations, you guys. So anything else that anyone would like to add that you could use around the Well, around virtual Zoom. Because we're not doing a lot of parties this year, I don't think.
Speak
Let's
for
say
yourself.
Hmm?
Speak for yourself. I'll do any party anybody wants to do. Hosting.
All right. So anything else before we go? Anything that I need to cover? Or you guys need to add? You're welcome, Ayana.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing it. Welcome back.
You're welcome. Well, did you get some information from this session?
Yes.
Okay, great. Can you use a few? All right, well, bye.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye, Autherine.
Bye.